he is here. You know, one of my favourites, known him for a long, long time, known him since he's just a lad. So, will you please give a huge VivaMK welcome? It's always you, isn't it? Yeah. A huge VivaMK welcome to the one and only McGee!
Back with you. I want to teach you, because I'm known as a motivational speaker, right? But to manage your expectations, you're not going to get what I call Californian motivation. All right? So I'm not going to suggest that tomorrow morning you look at yourself in the mirror going, I'm a tiger, I'm a tiger, I'm a tiger. You can do that in the afternoon. And Michael swears by it. But I'm from Manchester, and you're going to get what I would call a dose of Mancunian motivation. And for me, Mancunian motivation is three things. Number one, tell it as it is. Number two, no bull. And number three, less than really practical. So that's where we're going to go. Sound reasonable? Yes, yes. Yes. But I do want to teach you, and it is a bit of a cheesy, corny phrase. So I don't think I'm a cheesy, corny motivational speaker, but I want to teach you a phrase that, although it sounds cheesy and corny, is also absolutely true. And I'd like you just to turn to the person next to you, and if you're in a kind of like, haven't got a partner, maybe you have to be a happy threesome, so one of you in the middle might to do that. I just want you to turn and look in the direction of the person next to you, and then I want you to say something to them. I'm going to you just repeat the words after me. So, alright, so make sure you're in the direction of the person next to you, while you're doing that, and just repeat the following words. You are utterly and totally and completely mad. Who you are, M-A-D, making a difference.
Making a difference.
Now it is cheesy, and I know it's corny, but it also happens to be true. It was interesting hearing about the health products this morning and realising what was said on the slide. This is not just about selling products to people. It's about helping improve people's lives. I know a number of you, I've spoken to some of you. Your business makes a difference to you. There are people in this room who've had health challenges, and what got them through the challenges with the support of other people, but also the income they were still able to bring in through this business. There are people who you are adding to your team who, as a result of you getting them involved in the business, you start to make a difference to them. You don't turn them into overnight millionaires, but that extra income makes a difference. And I know that a lot of your business is still not actually online. It's you posting those catalogues through the doors. And for some people, just seeing you and having human contact and connection makes a difference. You know, get this, folks. In a world of iPhones and iPads, don't ever underestimate the impact and importance of eyeballs. Because seriously, you might be giving a person something to see in a week. And it's not just a brochure, it's about connecting with people, isn't it? You're all utterly, totally and completely mad. In the 45 minutes we've got together, I just want to share with you 4 ideas that will hopefully help you make a difference. Now, some of you, who's heard me speak before? Okay, so there's quite a few of you, and there's also plenty of you who haven't. So just so you're aware, who am I, where am I from, and why am I called the sumo guy? So my background, I work with some like impressive corporates, and I go, tell us your background, Paul. And I go, my background's in beef burgers. Because I started my life many years ago as like this graduate management trainee working for Bird's Eye Walls, specialised in HR. First 6 months of my job, I'm in an office pushing pen and paper. Then I have a life-changing conversation with the factory manager. They said, Paul, do you not be really good for your development if you spend some time actually in the factory managing the 30 women on the economy beef burger line? And I'm like, bring it on. 2 main lessons I learned from that experience. Number 1, don't eat economy beef burgers. Find out what goes into them. And secondly, when arrogance meets ignorance, that's a really dangerous cocktail. Would you agree?
Yeah.
You know, and I think I was a bit of both. I thought, right, managing 30 women should be relatively straightforward. I have a degree. I've got a background in psychology, and I've trained and worked as a probation officer for a medical club previously. I sensed I wasn't the first graduate management trainee those 30 women had ever come across. Imagine the scene for food hygiene purposes. When I've got to work in the factory, I've got to wear a special little outfit. I wore a white coat and a large blue hairnet. I looked amazing. Walk on the shop floor, day 1, 30 women just like line up to greet me. And they've all got that look on their face. Go on then. Motivate me. Brenda, leader of the pack, steps forward, takes a look at me, turns to her colleagues and goes, girls, we're going to have some fun here. And it is. There is a reason why I tell you that as part of my background. I think training and qualifications are hugely important for people. They can be. Do you know those 30 women taught me? If you want to get the best out of yourself, if you want to get the best out of others, and if you want to get the best out of life, training and qualifications will only take you so far. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Ultimately, nothing beats a bit of wisdom, some hard work. And we heard that from Chris, right? It is wisdom, it is hard work, it is some self-belief. Do you know what it is above all? It's about the support of other people. Those 30 women taught me something about myself, and 4-year degree never could. Some of you may remember from the past. They go, how did you get into speaking? I got into speaking out of adversity. I guess maybe that's happened to Chris. My life wasn't as dramatically changed, but a few years ago I became ill with an illness called ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis. So I went from being chronic fatigue syndrome, some people call it. I went from being a high-flying graduate management trainee, with all the kind of kudos that goes with that, to being on invalidity benefit. Right, I got £35 a week. It's interesting, words are interesting, aren't they? Words are powerful. Because if you write the word invalid down on a piece of paper, it can also read invalid, not of worth. And I've realised in life, whatever challenges you've got, some of them can be physical, but they're always going to be mental. The biggest battle anyone is ever going to fight is the battle between their ears. That is the number one battle. And sometimes you just need someone to support you. It was an interesting time for me, because 8 out of 10 doctors didn't believe it was a genuine illness, including my own doctor. So his way of supporting me was he sent me to see a psychiatrist in Liverpool. You know, if I'm honest with you, I found that a humiliating experience. Not going to Liverpool, but I remember the dogs conspired that you didn't get your money put into your bank account, you had to go to the local post office to get it, and the day I had to get it was on the same day old age pensioners got their pension. No offence to old age pensioners, but I was 25, they were 65 and over, and I remember looking in this post office queue, I've got my walking stick, looking at the woman who's going to serve me, and thinking, shoot, I never thought life was going to turn out quite like this. It's McGee Motivation. It's not always a walk in the park. After 3 years, I thought maybe I could get a job doing something. Maybe not full-time, but maybe part-time, because I wasn't fully recovered, but I couldn't get a job doing anything. Why? Because I couldn't pass a medical. So here's what I did. 32 years ago, I hired myself. I was looking amazing at the interview. And since then, I've written a few books. I'm hoping for a bit of a word moment. I've now written 13 books! 12 of them are adult books. Books for adults, John. It's getting more interesting, John, on the front row there, I can tell you. And the one that, I know a number of you, I'm going to tell a final story about this, so I'm kind of already giving you a spoiler alert here. The one I'm probably best known for is Sumo, alright? And I know a number of you got it, I've signed it. But one that maybe a lot of you don't know about, I've written loads, but one that I'm super proud of is a book I wrote for kids. Probably aged between 9 to sort of 12, and I know Lolly, who spoke earlier on, has been a big champion of this book, but you know, I had an interesting childhood. Let's just leave it there. I had an interesting childhood. And I remember that some of my issues in adulthood came because of what I lived the first 10 years of my life. And I don't want to just be prepared for an exam when I go to school. I want to be prepared for life. And my wife will tell you, out of the 13 books I've ever worked on, this one has been such a passion for me. I might weave in a little story about it later on, but it's aimed at kids. Trust me, it's really, really visual. Do you know Barry, who works for Knowledge, is Power King even? And when he looked at the book, he just went, and he's the guy that knows about the books, he went, that is beautiful. And it is. But I might tell you a story about the challenge I had with that a little bit later on. SUMO is an acronym. It stands for, some of you know, shut up, move on. And some people love that phrase. They go, oh yeah, SUMO, shut up, move on. And other people go, well, that sounds rather aggressive. It's not meant to be aggressive. But to clarify what I mean by the shut up bit, let me ask you a couple of questions. Show of hands, how many of you drive a car? Alright, this next question is a bit weird, but how many of you got yourselves dressed this morning? You personally put your own clothes on? Have a quick look around the room. Anybody with their hands obviously leading far more interesting life than you are. Alright, the reason I ask those two questions is psychologists reckon on a day-to-day basis, maybe as much as 80 to 85% of what we do, we kind of do it on autopilot. We do it without rethinking. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. Not milking a cow, but if you're driving, have you been on a longish journey, lost in your thoughts and your music, and had that rather scary experience, like you wake up and think, what happened to the last 10 miles? Why am I in the back seat? Whose car is this? You're driving your autopilot, aren't you? I mean, you gave me a little bit of a woo, but in a moment I am deserving not of a woo, but I'm deserving of a... I was recently on a speed awareness course. The third one. And do you know what the instructor said? The guy who's doing the course, apart from saying nice to see you again. He said, you are most likely to speed along a road you are familiar with when you drive along regularly.
Yeah.
And then he said the reason for that is because when you're driving on autopilot, when you get dressed in the morning, most of us probably aren't thinking what I put on first, my left and my right shoe. You do it without thinking. Shh. So here's 45 minutes. And we've been hearing about other people's stories. And you'll hear about my story, but it's not really, let's look at Paul McGee's story. It's like, let me share my story to help inform your story. Let me share a bit of my journey to inform your journey. And just give you time to, in the time when you can get pace of work, the pressure of work, just give yourselves a bit of time, press pause, get off autopilot. And you know what you've got to realise? There is so much that you're doing already on autopilot without thinking that's really effective. So here's something I want you to think about though. You don't have to be ill to get better. We can always improve. You know what's fascinating? I took a risk, and Michael talked about taking risks. A few years ago I took a risk, and I sent a copy of my sumo book to the guy who coached England to Rugby Union World Cup success in 2003, Sir Clive Woodward. And I sent him this book and a letter, and I said, I heard you do an interview, I just thought you might like the book. I think I sent you a couple of other celebrities, didn't hear from him. Sir Clive Woodward contacts me 2 weeks later, he's read the book, he says, can I meet you? I think you can help me. You know, and that was the guy who'd already helped coach England to win the Rugby World Cup. And he approaches, basically to him, an absolute unknown. He reads my book and he says, can you help me? You don't have to be ill to get better. So today is about giving ourselves time to stop and think and press pause and to reflect. But it's also then, you know, the benefit of this day is not just that you are here, and the networking will be great. But the benefit of being here is what do I do differently as a result of being here. And I hope there's something I talk about in this session that will move you on to think, yeah, I'm going to do that. Now, a few years ago, when it's time to do sumo for schools, life skills for kids last a lifetime. And that was even before the book, but I had an interesting conversation with one of the schools. They said, Paul, you know we're fans of your work, but we've got a problem with shut up, move on. Because one of the parents said recently, my son George keeps on going on about sumo, because we're actually looking at some of my ideas in their classes. But the parents said, well, what is sumo? And the teacher said to me, I just felt a bit awkward going, it's an acronym, it stands for shut up, move on. Paul, George is 7. We're a primary school, as you know, but what you might not know is one of our values is to show respect, and I don't think you show respect by telling people to shut up. So then you need to change the title of your programme. I went, Linda, it's my brand, I spent flipping years developing it. She said, no, I get that, it's just that you don't change. This is a good phrase to ponder, be challenged by. It's just that if you don't change, I don't think we can use your material anymore. I went, have you got any idea what to call it instead? She said, no. I said, thanks for the feedback. Before I tell you the rest of the story, have a quick conversation with your mad friend and discuss the following. Who do you think allegedly said the following words? The future does not belong to the strongest or the most intelligent. The future belongs to those who are best able to adapt, to change. 20 seconds. The future belongs to the strongest or the most intelligent. The future belongs to those best able to adapt, to change. Any idea who said that? Go, 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 go. Okay. The future does not belong to the strongest or the most intelligent. The future belongs to those who are best able to adapt to change. Was allegedly said by the son of a GP from Shrewsbury. Called Charles Darwin. You know what? If McDonald's can sell salads, which they have been doing since 2005, if Greggs the Bakers can do vegan sausage rolls, maybe I need to adapt to change. Just so you know, sumo does still stand for shut up, move on. That's the title of the book. But we also have an alternative definition now. Stop, understand, move on. And we're still doing loads of work in education. But you're part of a business that continues to evolve and adapt. That's really good. You see, the scariest place to be in an organisation right now is in an organisation that's not changing. Change can be a challenge, but if you're in an organisation that ain't changing, I don't think much of what your future's going to be like. Oh, by the way, sumo is a word in Latin, it means to choose. Our choices matter. My mate Drew Povey is a leadership speaker. He says this, Paul, every day is a choose day. CHOOSE. And I know Michael said we want to get some motivation, and we do. But I'll also be honest with you, and this is a bit of a strange thing to say as a motivational speaker, but you know, it can fade. What are you going to do? Just, well, I'm motivated for the next 24 hours, 48 hours, I'm a tiger, I'm just get out there. And then next week when it's cold and it's wet and it's windy, you don't always feel that motivated. Let me tell you, the people I've spoken to, and a lot of working with all kinds of elite sports people and all kinds of people from different backgrounds, and I've realised this, people do stuff and achieve success not because they always feel motivated. Just be aware of that. They do it because they have chosen, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to show up and do today. I choose. Those of you get that book for kids, which I am so flipping proud of, be aware of this, that in order to meet my deadline, I had to work on that book whilst I was ill with COVID-19. And that virus hit me pretty hard. Fortunately, I'd done most of the book, but I had a deadline to meet. And I didn't get out of bed in the morning feeling excited and motivated to finish that book off. I just thought, you know what, this is tough, but every day's a Tuesday. Let's just do a little bit each day and see how we can get on. I want to share with you 4 ideas I think you'll find invaluable. The first one is a formula. If you've read the sumo book, you're familiar with it. It's such an important formula. I talk about it in the kids' book as well. It's simply this, E plus R equals O. Let me explain those 3 letters to you, why they're important to you in everything that we do in life. Anyone ever seen the TV programme Neighbours from Hell? Anyone ever been on it? Let me tell you, I saw an episode of Neighbours from Hell a few years ago, and it just had quite an impact on me. Let me tell you about the programme. There's a couple here in their 50s, they were into bird watching. They live next door to another couple, also in their 50s, not into bird watching, but living with their elderly mother. One day the woman here spots a bird in a garden she's rarely seen. She's super excited, she gets her binoculars out. She starts looking at the bird. After a while, the bird flies over into next door neighbour's garden. On automatic pilot, without thinking, what does she do? She follows the bird. At that precise moment, though, elderly mother happened to be in the conservatory. She looks up, she thinks she's being spied upon. She tells her son. When the son's interviewed for the TV documentary, he said the following: when my mother saw she's being spied upon, she was devastated. We had no choice but to grow fast-growing conifers. As you do. To plant these conifer trees between their property and their property. The trees grew fast and over time they grew tall, which was great for them because, it's giving us some privacy. It was bad for them because it blocks out their sunlight, and after a while they went, oi, any chance of like trimming these down by about 15 feet? No. Right, well, we'll take you to court then. Oh, I'm scared, go on then. It went to court. And thus ensued a 3-year legal battle of claims and counterclaims and appeals. And over a 3-year period between them, those two families spent just over £30,000 in court and legal costs. But as a story, it brilliantly illustrates E plus R equals O. Let's look at what those 3 letters stand for and why they're so important to us. So the E stands for event. And the event in that story is being looked at through a pair of binoculars. We all get events. We've obviously had to, how do we navigate through what happened with Clean Easy? We have to think about, how do we cope when we went through the pandemic? But you get those day-to-day events, don't you? That email, that conversation with a customer, that conversation with a colleague, with a potential team member. Maybe it's an issue or an event in your personal life with a family member or maybe one of your own kids. We get events all the time. And in that story, we looked at through a pair of binoculars, what was their outcome? Their outcome, 30 grand in court legal costs, loads of conflict and stress. But before they got to that outcome, what does the R stand for? Reaction or response, whichever one you said was right. I'm going with the word response, but reaction would be the same. In other words, let's just really stop and understand something. Two people in life can have the same event. They could have an opportunity, the same opportunity. There are people sat at home today, bored, lacking in a real sense of purpose or meaning, not much hope for the future, and some of them, sadly, will just be blaming the government for where they're at in life. And there are other people in this room who are going, well, it's not always great what's happening in life, and it's not always great what's happening with government decisions. But actually, at VivaMK, we don't sell victim t-shirts. Now, there are genuine victims in life, I get that. But I'm talking about people who just want to blame someone else for their outcomes and not take any personal responsibility. Hey, is life sometimes very tough? Yeah. If you want to see anyone who wipes the floor with me in terms of the power of his story, then it's Chris from Spoke Before Lunch. Because his event, and now you look at his outcome. I mean, what a remarkable individual. I'll tell you, I'm not a Viking. I ain't Viking. I'm going, I don't feel like I'm a warrior. I'm a fucking very committed coward. But you realise in life, it's not just the event. It's how you respond or react that influences outcomes. I got an email off a relative who lives in Australia some time ago, and I read the email. I felt angry and emotional and wanting to throttle him. And then I remember starting to type the email, and then I paused briefly, because it is good to pause briefly sometimes. And I thought, if I send this email I want to send, what will my outcome be? And I'm thinking, my outcome is likely to be him and I no longer speaking. And then people will go, oh, you two are no longer speaking. How come? And I would have gone, you should have seen the email he sent me. And that's part of the story, but it's not the whole story, is it? You should have seen the email he sent me and my reply to it. My response or my reaction to it. But lots of challenges can happen. Two people can have the same event, the same set of circumstances, but they can create a different outcome. Quick conversation with your mad friend. Imagine it wasn't elderly mother in the conservatory. Imagine it was you. You've just seen next door neighbour looking at you through a pair of binoculars. One of your responses is to be devastated and to grow fast-growing conifers. In the next 20 seconds, come up with 3 other responses you might have made if it had been you in the conservatory, not the elderly mother. Time begins now. Go, 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 go. Show of hands, anyone say any responses? Nice of them to wave. Were there any wavers in the room? Anyone say any responses? Might just ignore it and get on with life. You mature individuals. Anyone say that when you responses, you might go round and ask them what the flipping heck they're up to? Yeah. Who talks about revealing the parts of your body? You're not your best folks, Is it fair to say if you responded differently to that family, you ended with a different outcome? Yeah. It's obvious. I know it's obvious. Everything I talk about is obvious. But have you noticed how things are always obvious in hindsight? Yeah. Once things are pointed out to you, it's like there are people here who go, what, you can make extra income by delivering some brochures and by making contact with customers and then building up a bit of a team, and you can make this bit of a difference. And you can get some flipping holidays and do this and gala dinners and all that. Yeah, it's obvious, isn't it? It just requires a bit of work. Just requires a bit of work. A bit of every day to choose. Yeah, but what if it's raining? Well, I'll wear a flipping mask. I know, but and it's like, for goodness sake. No offence, but take the t-shirt off. And let's just take some ownership for our lives, because it's just understanding. The future, get this. The future isn't a place you get to. It's not que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. No offence to Doris Day. It's a case of, well, maybe my future, together with other people, is what we get to create, that we get to shape. And that doesn't mean instant success overnight. But it just means whatever life's throwing me in terms of my events, whether they are good, bad or indifferent. And I've spoken to some people in this room who are not sat far from me, and they've had some challenging events. And they didn't wear yellow. They went, well, it's not just about the event, is it? It's about how we choose to respond or react that creates our outcomes. I was so excited about my book coming out for kids, coming out October 2020 in the middle of a global pandemic. When my publisher submitted the book to H. Smith, basically Smith said it's outstanding, we love it, it's superb. There's never been a better time for this book to be coming out for young people, and we won't be stocking it. Pourquoi? Because I'm bilingual. Because basically, Gareth Southgate has a book coming out for kids at a similar time. Chris Hoy, has, the Scottish cyclist, Thighs Like Tree Trunks, he's got a book coming out for kids at a similar time to yours. Paul, we think yours is the best out of the 3, but here's the deal. When a customer goes into a bookstore, it's like Gareth Southgate, celebrity, Chris Hoy, celebrity, Paul McGee, who's he? It's not personal, it's commercial. They're not going to stock the book. I mean, yeah, and you have to have what I call a bit of hippo time. If you've read Sumo, I talk about hippo time. What a hippo's doing mud, they wallow. Hey, it's okay to have a little bit of hippo time. It's okay to not always feel okay. To feel mad, bad and sad at times, it's okay. But remember, hippo time is a detour. It's not meant to be a flippant destination. And then it's a question of, okay, so that's not going to happen. I had a hippo time, I had a conversation with Helen. over there, my wife, and we just said, so what's the plan? What are we going to do? Well, maybe wearing yellow wouldn't be appropriate now. But it's not fair just because I'm not a celebrity. Hey, folks, you know what? Reality rules. And sometimes you're going to say, okay, that's the event, that's the situation, that's the challenge. So how are we now going to respond? You are here in this room because of what Michael and others did in terms of their response to what happened a few years back. And that's why you're creating good outcomes for yourself and for other people. My wife said to me, she said, you know what, let's get posters made based on the book. Let's send books out, complimentary books to schools. So if you like the book, and we were convinced they would, when you look at it, you know, then we'll if you want to buy some more, we can have them at cost price. We just want to get the book out there. Hey, Sumo, I'll finish with a story about Sumo. That is a Sunday Times bestseller. Do you know why it's a Sunday Times bestseller? Because it sold a lot of copies in a short period of time. I've written 13 books. You know the one that sold the most in its first year of being out? The book for flipping kids. Because you know what, folks? In our lives, it's never just the event. It's how we respond and react. That's what determines our outcomes. Remember that. Oh, and also remember this. It's important at times to get a bit of perspective in life. I want to tell you two things about the way you and I think. Number one, thinking is a bit like breathing. Because most of the time we're not even aware that we're doing it. We don't wake up in the morning typically and go, I shall breathe today, it's good for me. And neither remember how shall I feel my thoughts. We just do it on automatic pilot without me thinking about how we're thinking. Do you know what's something else about how you and I think? When you and I think, we often think in questions. And some of you are thinking, do I? That's one of the first thoughts you might have when you wake up in the morning. Could be a question, couldn't it? Oh, what time is it? Who are you? And who are you? Just the cats, it's a family show. See, questions are powerful. Questions can help you get a bit of perspective. Because sometimes we sweat the small stuff a lot. I do, I know I do. I came up with 7 questions to help you sumo. Questions you'd ask yourself in certain situations. Now, we haven't got time to look at all 7. But I want to mention a couple. But I put them on a postcard. If, at the end of the day, or whenever you want to do so, go over to Helen with our compliments. You don't have to buy a book or anything else. With our compliments, take away one of the postcards. It is an invaluable coaching tool. But let me just give you 2 questions just to think about on that card. Maybe think about an issue or a challenge that's going on in your world at the moment. Maybe it's related to your work with VivaMK. Maybe it's related to other parts of what you do in life, work-wise. Maybe it's in relation to your personal life. And I'm just going to give you 2 questions to ponder and reflect on. Maybe to get a sense of perspective. The first question is simply this. So where is this issue on a scale of 1 to 10? In brackets where 10 equals death or the end of the world. Where actually is it? Because you know what can sometimes happen? If you're like me, you might not be. I just go off on one. I lose perspective. I'm like, I don't believe this. What's happened? Tidy your bedroom. How long have I been married? Oh, I'm shopping, and I don't need much, so I've got a little basket, 10 items. So I mean, the 10 items are less cute. Folks, I've been that sad an individual. I used to count the items of the people's baskets as they put them on the conveyor belt. This woman's got 11 items, it's 10 items or less. No security, I'll scratch a car. I've had issues. Oh, by the way, if I'm driving and I let you into the traffic, and you don't thank. Well, let's be clear, that's a flipper and ill actually, well, maybe it's not quite an 11. I'm painfully aware, and you may be. that there are 10s, 9s and 8s in life, I get that. You know, my concern is when logically, rationally, it's a 2, but we keep on thinking it's an 8 or a 9. Here's a phrase for you to think about: stress makes you stupid. Drugs and alcohol will also do that. Have a chat with the front row for more information. Here we go. Stress does make us stupid, and I'm not saying, and my wife will definitely confirm this, that I'm always getting it right. I'm not, but I do know questions can be helpful. I really believe that. Get a little sense of perspective. Can I be a bit frustrated? Yes. But then I can like go, yeah, but on a scale of 1 to 10, we're trying to go, where is it? Come on. Another question that's helpful. Boy, this was interesting. So, Michael said this morning about being a disruptor, really, and ruffling feathers and taking risks. About 18 months ago, my son said to me, he says, Dad, you should go on TikTok. I said, Matt, I'm a guy in his late 50s. I don't do dad dancing, and I don't think I'm going to be doing funny videos. He went, Dad, you are right, the demographic of people who are on TikTok is not people in their late 50s. But there will be people on their late 50s who post videos that people will watch. And he said, and even stuff to do with mental health and positivity and motivation, and I went, yeah, I don't know, it just seems a bit of I don't really understand it, I'm not going to do it. He went, I really think you should do it, Dad. I think you should take a risk. Do you know what I did? Courageous Paul McGee did. Nothing. I don't need to. I'm alright, doing okay on Twitter, on Instagram. Events are doing well, but books are selling well. And then early last summer, he says to me, he said, Dad, are there any more thoughts about TikTok? You could even post the videos you do for TikTok on Instagram and on Twitter. He said, my brother-in-law has his own social media agency. He could film them and post them for you. You know, all you have to do is come up with the content and speak to camera. I went, oh, Will. But what was the challenge I was facing at that time? What was the challenge maybe some of us might be facing? Well, humour me for a moment. Just stretch both hands out in front of you, fingers pointing forwards. And then just bring your hands together and clasp them so one thumb's over the other. Alright, no observation skills. Notice if it's your right or your left thumb on top. And check out with your mad friend if they've got their right or left thumb on top.
Right.
If you've got your right thumb on top of your left thumb, if your right thumb's on top, would you just nod your head now, please? We've got a few nodders in the room, that's wonderful. Folks, for me it's also my right thumb. You're going to come across this in the press recently. People with their right thumb on top are usually a lot more intelligent. Somebody trying to swap thumbs in this thing. Seriously, that was based on some rigorous academic research that I conducted on a sample of one. It was totally conclusive. If you had your left thumb on top, just means you're a better lover. Hey, guess what? I'm ambidextrous. What's that? Separate your hands out again, please. This time you bring them together, whichever thumb was on the bottom last time. Pull down one on the top this time. I don't know, you may have done this before, but how's that feeling like? So anything like the and relax. Hey, sometimes change can make you feel uncomfortable, would you agree? Yeah. And I'm thinking about TikTok, and I really understand it. It's going to be uncomfortable. Here's something to think about. Here's something to share with other people at times. We all operate in what you might call a comfort zone. Just part of how it is, it's fine. It's like having this invisible hula hoop around you, not the Chris, the other one. But here, and I do want to pin back your ears to this question, because it so relates to your lives. Where do life's opportunities really lie? Where do life's opportunities really lie? Inside or outside? A comfort zone. I think some of my life's opportunities, maybe they're out here. And there's a messy middle, and it's a little bit uncomfortable to begin with. I need to go, that's fine, it happens. And new technology, new systems, and new products, and new ways of doing things, and becoming brand ambassadors and making your own video. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, be courageous, go out your comfort zone, it's okay. Get a bit of support along the way. So I said to my son, all right, I'll do it. We filmed 90 videos. We start posting them. I started at ground zero. It's humbling to start a new social media platform. And how many followers do you have, Paul? None. Well, that's very good. So you start posting them, and we see a few people start to follow, and a few videos do okay. But after the first 60, I think it's fair to say it was not a great success. There were cats on TikTok with more followers than me. And I thought, maybe it's time to quit. You know what my son said? What's the second question on your postcard, Dad? And second question is, how important will it be in 6 months' time? So if you're giving it 6 weeks, give it 6 months. I've had over now 1.9 million views. Nearly 30,000 followers. Doesn't happen overnight, you know. Your business doesn't happen overnight. You need other people to support you, work with you, collaborate with you, challenge you, and sometimes, you know what, it's uncomfortable, and that's fine, because guess what, in 6 months' time, what made you feel uncomfortable today will feel very different in 6 months' time. What was out of your comfort zone 6 months ago will feel very, very different now. You know, just over a week ago, I did my first ever TikTok live, and I'm just like, I'm fucking technophobe. I'm embracing this. Because you know what's important in life? It's not just the events, it's how you respond or react that creates your outcomes. It's not wearing yellow. It's saying sometimes you need to have your hippo time, have a bit of a wallow, but it's a detour, it's not a destination. It's also about getting things into perspective. If you want to know what the other 5 questions are, please see, I was going to say please grab Helen, but I don't think that's maybe appropriate. But please do see Helen sometime before you leave and get one of the cards. I'm going to give you a third idea that I think will help you. And it's simply this. Manage your mental diet. We want to get perspective on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 to death row is how important it'll be in 6 months' time. But we also need to just manage our mental diet. You see, you think about the word diet, we've heard about health earlier on. But health isn't just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's psychological. And I think sometimes we've got to be careful of 2 things in particular. The media and our mates. The media, there is a lot of what you might call CNN. Constant negative news. And some people devour it. And then wonder why they don't feel inspired and motivated and focused to try and do something. You know, one of the things I've realised I do, I need to manage my mental diet, and I realise that, you know, there's a Shakespeare playwright called All's Well That Ends Well. You know what I think about? I think about something else. All's well that starts well. How do I start my morning? Master my mornings. My first hour of my mornings are planned every single day. What I'm going to be doing. And do you know what I'm not going to be doing? Let's check the news. Let's consume more negativity. Let's consume more toxicity. Do I have an idea of what's going on in the world? Absolutely. But most of what's going on in the world, I cannot control or influence. And if my daily diet is constant CNN, because the media aren't here to share with you the news, they are here above all just to get your attention. And do you know what the former editor of the Daily Mail said? He said the following: I have 2 goals from every edition of this paper. Make people angry and make them fearful. If I can make you angry, if I can make you fearful, I've got your attention. And to be fair to them and all the other media outlets, it's how our brains work. We focus on the negative. We've got to have the fuel, the motivation, the energy, and the desire in when things aren't great to say, okay, but today's a Tuesday. But if you manage your mental diet, and think about the podcasts you listen to, the audible books you listen to, the books that you might read. And what about mates? Because you'll have heard this phrase before, let's be honest, some of your mates are flipping mood hoovers. They see a bit of joy and positivity around the place, go to suck that right out of here. And spread a bit of misery in its place. A guy said this to me, he said, no offence Paul, but I've got to be honest, my wife's a mood hoover. He said, I love her dearly. But you know, I mean, you know that analogy, is your glass half full or half empty? He said, my wife's not even got a glass. He said, going for a walk the other day, I said to her, isn't it a gorgeous day? It's going to rain tomorrow. You know there are potentially people in your world who are mood hoovers or dream stealers. They'll give you 101 reasons why your business isn't going to work. And they're the ones that can blame someone else for everything that goes wrong in their lives. And maybe one of the reasons why they do what they do is because they want to stay in their comfort zone. And you moving out of your comfort zone and trying to improve your life and the lives of others in some ways threatens them. The last thing I do before I go to sleep, something I don't want to know, Paul, it's fine, it's okay, it's fine, I promise you. Because here's a phrase, what you take to bed with you travels the night with you. What you take to bed with you travels the night with you, and I don't mean the teddy bear. I mean, what's the last thing you watch, read, listen to, talk about, or think about? Do you know the things I do to manage my mental diet as I'm drifting off to sleep? I have what I call the thankful 4. I think of 4 things that have happened that day that I'm thankful for. I don't get out of bed until I've really gone over those 4 things again, because I've realised this. I might have written the books. I might speak all over the world, which unfortunately I have done. But you know what? I've got to keep turning up every day, and it's like, let's go again, let's go again. I wasn't born positive. You know, you've got to keep on working at stuff on a daily basis. Remember the formula, E plus R equals O. Get perspective on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10's death, where is it? How important will it be in 6 months' time? Manage your mental diet. Leave you with a final thought, a story. And you all know there's a happy ending to the story. But there's a lesson in the story I want to share with you. Spring of 2004, I felt pregnant. I wanted to give birth to a book. I wanted to write a book called Sumo. I was put in touch with the largest publisher in the UK by a mate of mine, and a book published through them. It had done really well. I sent one sample chapter of what the book was going to be, synopsis for the rest of it, was very excited. So, a week after I send the book, she replies, I have to say my reaction to your title isn't very positive. I'm not convinced that shut up, move on, seen on the front of a book in a bookstore is going to make the majority of people think I must have that. It wouldn't make me want to buy because it's quite aggressive. And I don't particularly like being told to shut up. And I'm a northerner. I think more sensitive southerners might be turned off by this even more. I'm like, come off the fence, tell me what you really think. I persuaded her to meet me. Gave her some ideas of how you can have a sumo cartoon figure, which is my logo on the front cover. She said, I'll take it back to the sales team, I'll come back to you. She came back to me. She said this, I spoke to other colleagues, their reaction was similar to mine. A book title has to work from the outset, and Paul, yours doesn't. You see, you can see the outcome long term, but this is part of my story. I'm working in London. Go down to London the night before. I go into W.H. Smith's, I want to manage my mental diet. So I'm looking for a book that might inspire me, make me laugh, make me think. I see a book on the top shelf in the business section. Some of you may have come across it. Who Moved My Cheese? It's a parable about 4 mice and how they deal with change. I'm looking at it going, I'll flipping well move your cheese. Could have been flipping sumo up there. And as I stood in W.H. Smith's looking at this book, I suddenly thought this to myself, you know what, Paul, mate? You've had your repo time. And as I walked out of W.H. Smith's and I took the escalator down to the London Underground, I'm thinking to myself, they are the largest publisher in the UK, but they're not the only one. You know what the irony was? I'd only sent one sample chapter to the publisher. This is my last idea I'll share with you. It's just called Learn Latin. And the Latin phrase is this. When you translate that into English, what have you got?
Seize the day.
Life does not reward people with good ideas. Just be aware of that. Life does not reward people with good intentions. It rewards people who take action. So I was so excited 2 days later when I'm back from a conference to send out a book proposal to loads of publishers. Here's what happened. No, 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 no. I got a further 12 no's. One actually heard about this. She said, you know, like a lot of other motivational speakers, are you? I said, in what respect? She said, well, some of them have been quite successful. But you know what? Success comes from the support of others. Chris's story, and meeting his wife earlier on, and all the support he's had from other people. But in my journey and in your journey, it is about supporting one another. My mate Paul said this to me. He said, Paul, I love your book. I think Sumo, it could help a lot of people. I think you need to push a few more doors. He said, well, I said, Paul, I pushed a lot of doors. He said, do you know what he said to me? Try pushing a few more. That's rather good advice, isn't it? Try pushing a few more. Sometimes that's just what life's about. Try pushing a few more. Because you only need one to open. The book, in its original form, came out end of May 2005. A month before, my publisher contacted me. They went, W.H. Smith's have been on. I went, are they going to stock it? They went, Paul, stock it. They've chosen it to be their business book of the month when it comes out. I went, it's not a business book. It's not a business book. I said, Paul, if W.H. Smith had chosen it to be business book of the month, it's a flipping business book. I said, what does that mean? He said, it means this. Go to W.H. Smith's top shelf business section. Next month, you won't see Who Moved My Cheese. But you will see a funny looking guy at unicycle. And guess what, folks? It's always about aiming higher. 10 years after the book came out, we re-released it as a 10th anniversary edition. We added new content to it. It got to #1 in non-fiction. But here's my point, folks. This is not about a book. It's about a message. It's about giving ourselves time just to get off autopilot, to do some stopping, thinking and reflecting. And to remember this, yep, there are events, and some of them we would not have chosen. But it's never the event that defines us. It's how I and how we respond and react that influences our outcome. Do you know what's going to help us? Getting a sense of perspective. You know what's also going to be really important on a day-to-day basis? Just when we think about our physical diet, don't forget your mental diet. And life does not reward people who have good ideas and good intentions. It rewards people who seize the day. Let me leave you with Nikki. Nikki simply said this. I was made redundant on Friday. It was a dull, but it was a well-paid job, and I wallowed for half a day, then still feeling angry and let down on my way home. I bought your book in Heathrow Airport, I read it from cover to cover whilst waiting for my flight. You see, I've always been the type of person to see the opportunity when faced with adversity, but your book has given me the insight, the courage, and now the determination to pursue my dream career. Thank you. Folks, I won't blow humble and modest with you. I flipping do love that photo. The book's now been translated into 12 different languages, including Australian. But that's all ego stuff. Why do I leave you with Nikki? Do you know why I leave you with Nikki? Because Nikki's never met me. And Nikki's never heard me speak. But Sumo made a difference to her. Folks, I don't know if our paths are going to cross again. I hope they do, but they might not. So can I just say this to you? And I was chatting to my wife about this. I love working with yourself. because you're the people who don't wear yellow. You're the people that invest in yourself and invest in others. You're the people that take a bit of responsibility. And although life's a bit of a roller coaster, yes, you keep going and you keep showing up. I'll leave you with Nikki, because yeah, she's not met me. And we might not meet again. So can I just say this? I wish you loads of success in all that you're doing. Not just within this business, but in life generally. And can I just also remind you of this? Whatever your future holds, every flipping single day, you are all utterly, totally, and completely mad. Folks, you make a difference. I really hope Simmer's made a difference to you. Thank you very much. Au revoir.